Hey, I want to welcome this morning our front row guests. They're right up here. They've been here since the beginning of our pandemic on the 15th, and you got a good look of them there right now. But in addition to that, we also have some of our First Impressions team, and they're waving to you right now, and we welcome them today. They came in a little bit early to celebrate the reopening, and so they had some training. They came in early. Pastor Caitlin went over that with them. They're ready for you. We're ready for you. We want you to be here next week if at all possible. We'll be starting here at 9:30 and again at 11 o'clock, and it won't be normal, but it'll be more normal than what you have been used to. I want to say this, it's going to be a family service. We don't have separate church children's services going on. And as kind of a little enticement, we're going to take the names of those kids who come in. You'll sign in. And I'm going to give out one of these for each service. This is a foot of bubble gum right here. And we'll fill you with a lot of sugar before you go. But we're going to do that for each service between now and the time that we come back and eventually have our children's programming and all of that. We don't know when that'll be. Possibly August or something. We're just kind of feeling out what's happening in our society and so on. So just bear with us. But we hope to see you all next week. And if you are not comfortable coming next week, we certainly hope to see you next, see you online. You'll see us online, I guess. Turn to the scriptures right now in Numbers chapter 20. I want to start with the verses today. Numbers chapter 20. I'm going to begin reading. It won't be on your screen. You can pull it up on your phone, perhaps, or you can listen to me. In the first month of the whole Israelite community arrived at the desert Zin, and they stayed in Kadesh. And there Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water for the community, and the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. This seemed to happen a lot, didn't it? They quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring us here? Why did you bring the Lord's community into this desert that we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to this terrible place? It has no grain or figs or grapevines, and there is no water to drink." Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance to the tent of meeting and fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. And the Lord said to Moses, listen carefully to his words, "Take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly together and speak." That's a key word. "Speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will pour out water. You will bring water out of the rock for the community so they and their livestock can drink." And so Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence just as he had been commanded. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, "Listen, you rebels, must we," me and Aaron, not God, see, he's taking credit, "must we bring water out of this rock?" And then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. He didn't speak to the rock. He struck the rock with the staff. God told him to speak to the rock. He struck the rock with the staff. And then Moses raised his arm and struck it twice with his staff. Water washed out and gushed out, and the community and the livestock drank. And then verse 12, this is important. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land that I give them." Because you did not trust me, you didn't speak to the rock, you hit the rock, you didn't trust me in that. You decided to take things into your own hands. I get up early every morning, and because we have people here, I'm not only going to speak to the camera today. I'll speak to some of you. I get up early every morning, and I have a ritual in the morning. I have several things I do. And then between 6 and 7, I'm headed south on I-75 to come into the church here. And between 6 and 7, the traffic in Cincinnati is absolutely crazy. And I have to pray, and I have to listen to Christian music just to keep my salvation, okay? And I get down to like Tylersville Road, and the brake lights start, coming on, and I'm just, oh, good Lord. The traffic is horrendous. And then at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, or really 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the evening, it's the same thing. On the way back, it's almost like you have 3 jobs. You work through traffic, and you get to your job, and then you do your job, and then you come home, and you work through traffic, and you come back and after working through the traffic. So you're exhausted by the end of the day. The traffic is terrible. And I can understand why words can fly inside some of the cars. I can even understand, I'm not condoning it, I can even understand why certain fingers go up in the air. If you've ever driven in traffic here in Cincinnati, you just would understand that. In Numbers chapter 20, the Israelites are on a road trip. It's a 40-year road trip. And though they didn't have traffic issues, they sure had a lot of trouble. And they sure complained a lot. And they sure griped a lot. Here in this passage, they are only miles from their destination. They've done this for 40 years, and now they're this close. They're almost there. And yet they start to do what they did at the beginning of this whole trip, this 40-year trip. Remember, before they even crossed the Red Sea, they started to murmur and complain and gripe. And over again, Moses has heard this, and now they've started it all over again. It's as if they think that the wilderness is supposed to be the same fun and excitement and joy-filled land that the promised land is. It's as if they think that the wilderness is the promised land. They want all the joy of the promised land, but they're not there yet. And I think of the song, "This world is not my home, I'm just passing through." Sometimes we as Christians, we think this is our home, and we gripe when things aren't exactly how we want it. Well, folks, we're strangers. We're aliens here. This is not our home. I'm going to talk more about that next week. But they began to just gripe and complain about the way things are. The fact is, the Israelites are not there yet. They're not where God ultimately has them going, to the promised land. In fact, the first generation of these Israelites aren't even going to make it. They're gone now because they didn't have faith. They didn't have trust in God. They disobeyed, and they grumbled, and they griped. Let me leave you with this. We have no idea what we miss out on because of our complaining. We have no idea the blessings that God has for us, and yet we miss out on them because of our grumbling. In clinical psychology, it's called gunny sacking. It's this idea that you take irritations, frustrations, and you put them in a sack, and you hold it. You keep those for about 6 months. And then, when it has nothing to do with the issue at hand, you pull that out and you just start dumping it out over everybody because you've been gunny sacking. Everybody does it. It's in every situation, every culture. If you're married today, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She says, "You left the toilet seat up. And you left your socks in the middle of the floor." Now, those are minor infractions in the big scheme of things. You left the toilet seat up. You left your socks on the floor. And you never even got me anything for Valentine's Day. See, it has nothing to do with what's happening here, but you start throwing in everything else that you've been holding on to for the last 6 months. It's called gunny sacking, and that's exactly what's been happening here. This is what the children of Israel are doing to Moses and to Aaron. They're gunny sacking. They're dumping all this stuff, all these 40 years. They're this close to the promised land. But now, they're griping and they're complaining. In verse 3, it says, if only we had died when our brothers fell dead. What that's talking about is chapter 16, just a few chapters earlier. And Korah gathers 250 leaders in the community, and they go to Moses, and they're griping. They're saying, this is taking too long. And besides, who says you're the only holy one around here? Who says you're the only one that can be the leader? And so on. And you know what happens? You need to go back and look at this. Parents, you would love to walk your kids through this. The earth opens up and swallows them all. Listen, God won't have anything to do with that kind of grumbling. And he's just like, I'm done with them. It just swallows them all. And what they're saying here, well, following that in chapter 16, the people, they see that. I'm never going to complain again. Look what happened to Korah. Shut my mouth. And here we are a few chapters later, and what are they doing? Grumbling, complaining, griping all over again, over and over again. A spirit of complaining will lead to disobedience. Those of you who are here, just say that. A spirit of complaining will lead to disobedience. Here they're griping, they're complaining. There's nothing here for us. There's nothing for us to do. This isn't what we thought it would be. They're acting as if this is the promised land, and it's not. There's nothing here for us. These are the same people who wore sandals that never wore out in 40 years. It's the same people who wore clothes that never wore out. It's the same people. When they were hungry, God gave them manna from heaven. When that wasn't good enough, he gave them quail to eat, more than they could even eat themselves. They had to leave a whole bunch of it. When they were thirsty, God gave them something to drink. And here they are complaining. They complain, and then Moses, who ought to know better, and I want to emphasize this, he's the leader. He ought to know better, but he goes into this fit of rage. Maybe he's gunny-sacked a little bit. He's been holding on to this stuff, and now he just can't take it any longer. Just as disobedience, or just as complaining leads to disobedience, anger leads to disobedience. Rage leads to disobedience. He ought to know better. Moses was born for this time right here. You know the Bible, your Bible readers. Exodus chapter 2. He should have drowned in the river Nile, but instead God made provision for him. He's raised in Pharaoh's household. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, he is born for this, to take the children of Israel, the Hebrews, away out of slavery, out of Egypt, and into the promised land. This was his destiny. He was made for this moment. And God's hand was in Moses' life from the very beginning. But anger, rage that dishonored God kept him out of the promised land. Because instead of speaking to the rock, he struck the rock in anger. Now, I see why Moses gets upset. I get that. They're still complaining. They're still grumbling. After all God has done for them. After all God has done for them, they still gripe. They still complain. I understand frustration. As a leader, I understand. If you own your own business, if you manage people, if you work in retail, you know people are difficult. People are hard. It's tough. If you have a smartphone, I know most of you do, they have auto text. you're texting and it kind of corrects it and whatnot. And then there's voice text. Those of you who are here, do you ever use voice text? Anybody use voice text? Yeah, I use it all the time. And my kids, my family say, Dad, you really shouldn't. You shouldn't use voice text. I said, why not? See, voice text, on my phone, maybe it's just my Apple phone, but it doesn't understand the words coming out of my mouth, okay? It's like the craziest thing. I'll say one thing, and it says something different. So this week, I was at Kroger, and as I was leaving, a storm came in where, you know the expression, it was raining sideways, right? That's what was happening. I mean, it was raining sideways. So the employees that were leaving, change of shifts, I guess, and then the customers like myself, we were standing there just waiting because, I mean, it was just buckets. And so we're standing, and some of us are just kind of chatting or whatever. And so I send a picture of it to my wife. And after I send the picture, I send this message to her. I say, stuck here with Kroger customers and employees. I'm stuck here with Kroger customers and employees. That's what I sent. And my wife sends a question mark and says, that doesn't make any sense. And so I went back and I looked. And this is what voice text changed it to. Stuck here with a whole bunch of other program for a reason customers. See, she doesn't understand the words coming out of my mouth. Now, I know that at times I stumble and I stutter and all of that, and it kind of is convicting when there's certain things. I'm like, yeah, I guess I didn't pronounce that very well, and I work on that. I really do. But I also know that it's not just me that struggles with this. I was texting with John Nelson this week. John Nelson doesn't even know this because I'm sure he never went back to look at his text. But he sent me a text this week. And I think this is what he meant to say. He meant to say, so Mal and I were just, and then he went into some depth that you don't need to know about all that. But so Mal and I were just, that's what he meant to say. I know that's what he meant to say. See, John's wife's name is Mallory, and he calls her Mal. So I can put that together. So Mal and I were just, but his text actually said, Showmouth and I were just. Now, if I didn't know any better, I would think he had a pet name for his wife, which was Mouth. But I'm pretty sure he'd have a black eye right now if he called his wife Mouth all the time, right? And I'm only saying that to say this. It drives me crazy when voice texting changes my words, changes the meaning of my words. It doesn't drive you crazy? And likewise, it drives me insane when people try to change my words. When people try to say things I didn't say. And this happens a lot on social media. You say this, and they're, and people are making these broad statements these days. It's like junior high all over. Everybody feels this way. Nobody's doing this. No, just speak for yourself. I support good professional law enforcement. Oh, so you support racist cops, do you? No, that's not what I said. I support peaceful protests, bringing attention to the racial divide and inequality in our country. Oh, so you support looting and burning of buildings, huh? I didn't say that. Stop putting words in people's mouth. Let our words just be what they are and stop making those assumptions and jumping and all that. It happened to me just this morning. I can see the frustration that Moses would have. Dealing with people is tough stuff. Moses, who is predestined to go into the promised land, sinned against God with a sin that looks it looks a lot like something I would do. Frustration. Anger. Moses says, in a sense, I'm tired of your complaining. I'm fed up with the griping. That was it. In the big scheme of things, I'm thinking that doesn't sound like that big of a deal. It kept him out of the promised land. One thing I get out of this passage is that it's dangerous. It's dangerous to judge God's people. It's dangerous to speak against God's people. Moses calls them rebels, and God calls them his children. If you want to get into a world of trouble, just start mistreating the people of God. Keep lying about them. Keep misrepresenting them, and you'll get yourself in a big amount of trouble, a lot of hurt. Bible says, touch not my anointed. See, God won't put up with that stuff. Moses, I know they're griping. I know they're stiff-necked. Trust me, I've been putting up with them too, but they're mine. I know that they're rebellious, but they're mine. They're not yours. Those of us with kids, you kind of get this. You mother bears, mama bears, you know what I mean by that. You get this. Now, I know I have a misbehaving son, but he's my misbehaving son. You talk about somebody else. You talk about the weather. You talk about your son. Don't be talking about my son, because he's my son, right? I mean, that's what a mama bear would say to you. Now, if you feel that way about your children, how do you think God feels about his children? He loves his children. Don't speak about or against his children. God is zealous for his children. He's passionate for his children. He sent his only begotten Son to die on a cross for his children so that we could be reconciled to God and then thus reconciled to one another. Amen? So we speak love. We speak encouragement. We speak hope into the lives of other people. Red, yellow, black, and white. It's a message of love. So there's 4 takeaways from this passage. 4 takeaways. Number 1, stop gunny sacking. Just stop doing that. Your marriage would be a lot better if you'd stop doing that. Society would be a lot better if you'd stop doing that. Stop gunny sacking. Number 2, complaining and anger leads to disobedience. Complaining and anger leads to disobedience. Number 3, don't autocorrect people's words and motives. Just don't do it. Number 4, this is important, be careful of Mama Bear. Listen, it's been great to be with you today. I want to encourage you next week, come back here. We're reopening here. Well, as Caitlin said this morning, Pastor Caitlin, we were never closed. We just were meeting in a different way. But we're going to have an opening here. The doors are open. We want you to be back here 9:30 and or 11. Wednesday night's really important that you tune in 6:30. We're going to have about 4 or 5 staff members here. We're going to go over everything that we're going to be doing on Sunday. So you'll understand a little bit better about seating, about overflow, all that kind of stuff. So please watch 6:30 on Wednesday night. I have a friend of mine. He was a teenager when I was his pastor in Flint, Michigan. And today he's an associate pastor at a large Nazarene church there in Flint Central. His name is John Gildner. I watched his devotional that he put online on Wednesday, and one, just was proud of him, just because he was one of our kids, and just proud of what God has done and is doing in his life. But the other is he had a wonderful message. It was about 15 minutes long. I have edited down, had Keith edit down to 3 minutes, and I just, if you have some time, I'd like you just to watch this next 3 minutes. The service is over, but this is a good word. It's a real good word, and I'd love for you to hear from John today, so take a listen.
So Paul's first command is to rejoice always. His next imperative to the church is this: let your gentleness be evident to all. Now, I started reading and studying for tonight about 2 weeks ago. And I have to admit, this phrase has been messing with me ever since. It seems like it's stuck in a continuous loop in my head. I don't know if that ever happens to you. Maybe a song, maybe a funny word, but something just gets lodged in your brain and loops endlessly. Well, that's been this phrase for me. Let your gentleness be evident to all. I wish a different verse had made its way into my head. I wish it was something different. I've been wrestling with this for days now. I'm guessing Paul wrote this because he had to. He witnessed something happening among his flock that was not becoming of Jesus Christ. Their responses to one another and those outside their circles were not gentle. And this is what I've been wrestling with. Over the last few months, I've seen tremendous gentleness among us, needs being met, hearts being softened. But I have to admit, I've seen, and I'm seeing, seems much more and more lately, the lack of gentleness among God's people. My disdain for Facebook has grown over these weeks. It seems that it's become this place to spout anything we're feeling without any sense of humility or Christian witness. I've seen God's people assume that they know the intent of our local leaders, national leaders, those within the medical community, those within the philanthropic community. I've seen God's people post videos that agree with their viewpoint and discredit and disparage those with whom they disagree. I've witnessed the church get caught up in American partisan politics, demonizing the other, all the while forgetting that our battle isn't against flesh and blood. My friends, all of this grieves me. It breaks my heart. My heart has been heavy these days as I've watched God's people play Caesar's games. We are meant for more than this, and our task is to show a different way, a better way, for the sake of the world. We are called to be saints and to live into that identity. Paul tells the church that their witness, it's impacted by their behavior. Their gentleness should be evident to all, everyone. Those inside the church, those outside the church, those who are breathing down their necks, those who are causing them pain, those who feel that they are getting their rights taken away. To all, Paul commands them to be gentle. I'm not sure what happened to gentleness. Somehow it seems it's gotten a bad rap these days. To be gentle is to be weak. It means losing, soft, no backbone. Gentle people don't get things done. Gentleness has been replaced in our culture. And it seems that what's needed, what we want, what our culture wants is a street fighter, a straight shooter, one who tells it like it is, regardless of the outcome. My friends, this may be the way of the world, but this is not the way of Christ. Do you remember Jesus as he stood before Pilate? Silent. He could have summoned the angels. He was the Son of God after all. He could have claimed his rights and made sure everyone knew about his kingdom. But like a lamb before its shears is silent, so was Jesus before Pilate. As I've said every week, for Paul, everything centers on Jesus. Jesus is our guide, our model. Jesus is the one we are to imitate.